Hello, and welcome to the Employee Safety Podcast from Alert Media, where you'll hear advice from experienced safety leaders on how to protect your people and business. I'm Peter Steinfeld. Today, I'm joined by Chris Riccardi, Manager of Emergency Management and Business Continuity at Rady Children's Health. Chris has decades of experience in emergency management, which he used to develop a widely adopted mass casualty response program for the healthcare industry. This program ensures medical facilities are prepared to receive and treat a large number of victims within minutes of a mass casualty incident. Chris details how the program works, the benefits of implementing it, and how any organization can apply its fundamentals to improve emergency response. Let's dive in. Hey, Chris, I am really excited to speak with you. Thanks so much for being here.
Greetings, Peter. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, can you start by telling us about your role at Rady Children's Health and your background in emergency management and business continuity?
Gladly. I've been at Rady Children's Health for the last 6.5 years. I came on to build a business continuity program here. My tenure is in emergency management for the last 20 some odd years that I worked with a few other hospitals where I got to bring those skills, those experiences, and be able to enhance that around pediatric emergency management.
So is that experience and background what led you to develop your mass casualty response program?
Well, by happenstance, we needed to develop a plan at my previous facility. It was part of the Providence system in Torrance, California, and we thought we were a little behind the eight ball in terms of our preparation with mass casualties. We had a response plan that would take a good half an hour to an hour to gather all of the equipment and supplies that we needed to respond appropriately, which led us to develop a process that we would be able to rapidly deploy supplies, equipment, create surge space, and include the staffing into that process. So when we brought together a few folks, our emergency department manager, emergency department physician, clinical educators, when we started to put our heads together to come up with this plan, we dubbed it 15 till 50 or 15 minutes until 50 patients. It was over dinner with one of my peers that we were discussing what our facilities do for mass casualty incidents. When she heard that we were using this 15 till 50 protocol, she wanted to know how she could as well. So I did a presentation, and by happenstance, the chief of EMS Disaster Services was in the audience. And when he heard this, he made a very strong comment that we needed to build this out. We needed to figure out a way to distribute this and disseminate this out to the masses. We were able to get some supplemental funding through the Hospital Preparedness Program grant funding, which really worked out well, because we were able to build this using a consultant to help develop some of the information. And then we were able to build out the process based on what we did, getting what was in my head onto paper and create plans that could be disseminated far and wide. And because it was built with HPP funds, there's no copyright, there's no trademark, there's no cost to facilities to implement this, which really makes it that much more special, that this is not a sales pitch, but just sharing a best practice that any size facility, even clinics have utilized this, could implement in their facility to perhaps put them in a better place and perhaps save a life. That is truly the ultimate objective here after a disaster.
So ultimately, this is really a triage program, but for incidents where there's more than one person coming in. Can you maybe break it down just very quickly? Like, how does that work? What does that mean to triage something very quickly at a high volume?
If you came in my hospital on a normal day, triage could take 10 minutes, working through all of your history, any of your medical exam, blood pressure, et cetera, to get you screened coming into the hospital, to identify your level of care needed to treat whatever issue you're coming in with. In mass casualty events, we use what's called a START triage model, which is a simple triage and rapid treatment. And with pediatrics, it's a jump start, where we don't spend more than 15 to 30 seconds triaging individuals to get them to the level of treatment that they would need. Here with our program, we utilize COTS in our mass casualty treatment area. So once they are triaged or rapid assessment of their issues, any of the ailments, cuts, bruises, breathing, do they have a perfusion, blood perfusion? We'll test for different things like that, get them to the appropriate level of care, and then we'll do a little further in-depth triage on them at bedside.
So it sounds like a big part of this is that the responders all understand the chain of command and then their spot in it. So they're just waiting and ready to go to do what they need to do.
100%. Through our accreditation and regulatory compliance, the ultimate objective is to train our staff for their roles and responsibilities in a disaster event. There is no better tool than the 15 till 50 because it truly designates roles and responsibilities. As a matter of fact, the planning guide has a section in it where it has every department listed in your hospital or in a hospital and what their role and responsibility would be within that system. Now, we would establish what we could call a hospital command center. When we activate our 15 till 50, the expectation is that my hospital leadership will also activate our hospital command center to manage this event from a leadership perspective. The nursing team or emergency department team will be managing outside, dealing with the mass casualties, and the internal portion or the hospital incident command system will ensure that those patients are being moved up into the hospital, whether it be a medical surgical unit or a NICU or OR surgical aspect of life, depending on where we are in that spectrum. But that's why the leadership activity is critical as well. And the expectation is that they too are set up in under 15 minutes to be able to support the treatment areas for the initial deployment.
You'd think with hospitals dealing with emergencies for so many years, this would have already been around. But like everything, it's got to be invented. So it must have been bubbling up inside you for some time. What inspired you to really create the program? Was there some kind of moment or event that just sparked the idea?
My hospital was located equidistant from the Port of Los Angeles and Los Angeles International Airport. We had received a call over our radio that there was a cruise ship explosion in the Port of Los Angeles and anticipate 2,500 victims.
Wow.
So that, needless to say, got things mobilized. Since I was the only one in the hospital at the time that was savvy to the plan, spoke with the house supervisors to activate this. And I grabbed two of our emergency medical techs that happened to be working on the floor that day to deploy the equipment that we had just staged a couple of weeks prior to test this process. With the three of us, with only one person that had been trained in this, myself, we were able to get all of the equipment supplies set up in under 20 minutes. And we were able to establish a mass casualty treatment area to be able to receive these victims. One, it validated that it works. Two, it could be set up in a very short period of time. And with absolutely no training for the other staff, we were set up in 20 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
So I can imagine that people in healthcare who are listening really understand all this, but what about those folks who are not? Is this program adaptable to other industries as well?
As a matter of fact, it is. We've utilized this and helped implement this in a couple of warehousing facilities. I've helped a couple of our local schools to implement this so they have a mass casualty incident response to be able to triage, get these folks some immediate care before the EMS emergency medical services would be able to assist them. And in California, dealing with earthquakes or dealing with larger events, this could be impacting more than just one school at any given time, which means that would require a whole lot more support from our EMS community to assist them. So at least there are tools in place that they could respond and hopefully stabilize whatever injured victims they may have to be able to get them transported to the hospital.
Well, you said earlier that it's free to all. Are there other ways people can learn more about this?
I wear many hats. I created and chair a Southern California Pediatric Disaster Coalition. So I meet with various coalitions, various hospitals. So we bring that group together. But in doing so, I've also gotten myself included with a group called RAPM, which is the Western Regional Alliance for Pediatric Emergency Management. It's one of the three national pediatric disaster centers of excellence. This happens to be the group on the West Coast that we are able to align with, where they are now hosting all of the 15 till 50 materials. We just recently built a written plan for 15 till 50 for pediatrics, so that even adult hospitals can have a pediatric readiness plan, a pediatric surge plan, to ensure that we are able to equip the hospitals that may not deal with pediatrics on a daily basis, have a plan to be able to implement if in fact the need arises. Or it can also be used as part of a pediatric hospital's mass casualty incident plan as well. But my goal was to put a tool in the hands of my peers. I've been a department of one for many years. And when we build plans, people will give you a checklist. Okay, build your plan from this checklist. Well, my goal was to create a written plan that could be, if you implement the process and the methodology, the written plan will be basically a find and replace to put your hospital's name in it, and your plan is virtually written just in going through a short time at your desk and any of the nuances that may have been utilized in your specific hospitals. Because it does change from hospital to hospital. Physical layout may be different, supplies availability may be different, what that looks like, how they interact with their emergency medical services, et cetera. But again, the whole beauty of this is it is all adaptable to any size facility. And I get to work with other hospitals in implementing this, whether it be locally or been working with the Florida Department of Health, where they have adopted this program to be utilized statewide. But we've been able to test this in different hospitals, and we do one day of training where they go through didactic, we do a mini setup exercise, and then we put everything back. And the next morning, they do a full-scale exercise with a minimum of 50 victims. We've even implemented this in federally qualified health centers, which are basically big clinics that have developed response plans. One of those folks was the Los Angeles LGBT Center. They wanted a plan that they would be able to not only serve their LGBT community, but also the West Hollywood community as well. So we were able to implement this, and that was a very validating thing to see how scalable this could be, that it could be scaled down to a small rural hospital, a clinic, and how they would be able to develop that response protocol.
And I can imagine training is important. So do you do this once a week, once a month, once a quarter, once a year? Like, what's the frequency?
We do 2 large, and when I say large, full-scale exercises twice a year at a minimum. And my quest is to use a minimum of 100 victims per drill.
Wow.
That will be moulaged or wearing theatrical makeup, so I can stress my hospital system. When I test my system, I need to stress my system, because the only time we're going to uncover gaps in our process is if we're stressing the system. If I only brought 5 patients in and said, oh, they're just minor injuries or whatnot, or have them on paper, it just doesn't have the same impact, nor will it give me the tools I need to evaluate our capabilities in reality. Orange County, California has just under 3.5 million people. Almost 800,000 of them are pediatrics, and we are the only children's hospital in Orange County. So my expectation is if there is a pediatric disaster or a disaster affecting many pediatric victims, we're going to receive the brunt of that. So how do I prepare my staff to be in a place of ready if in fact that is going to take place? So again, stress the system. And we do that at least twice a year. And that also includes our command center activation, the floor nurses. Each part of this process is activated during those events. But we also do other mini setup drills, like our ED has to go through competency training once a year. And we've integrated our 15 till 50 setup into the competency training. So at the beginning of every shift during that week, the staff will go and activate and initiate, set up the treatment areas with cots, tarps, canopies, the whole 9 yards, and a surge tent every day of that skills week, which is about a week. And they start to compete against each other as to who can set it up the quickest. But it maintains a muscle memory for them as well. They know where the supplies are. They know how to set these things up. And, good, healthy competition, it warms my heart to see the ownership.
Well, likewise, it gives me great comfort to know you guys are working on this so diligently.
Appreciate that.
Before we sign off, do you have any advice or resources for listeners looking to improve emergency response and preparedness at their organizations?
If you're looking to obtain any information, you can go to RAPEM, WRAPEM.org, and go to the Mass Casualty Incident tab, and you'll be able to download all of the planning guide, the training materials, there's video, there's sample files, there's equipment lists. It's there to set you up for success. And if you choose to adopt it, you'll have plenty of tools and make it adaptable to your facility. There's going to be modifications to meet your needs and how you do your business. But you have a plan that works, a plan that's been developed. And if, in fact, you choose, you don't have to reinvent the wheel in implementation. I, too, am available to you pretty much at no cost if you have questions or need somebody to fill in any of the blanks for you. I'd be happy to do that with the ultimate goal of being able to save a life. Any time on a phone call with you, Teams meeting with you, would be time well spent.
Well, Chris, I hope people will take you up on your offer to help them if they need further assistance. And thank you so much for being on the show.
I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. This has truly been an honor and a privilege to be able to share this information. And I hope folks do take me up on that offer. Thank you.
To learn more about Chris and his work with Rady Children's Health, click the links in the episode description. You can also watch the video highlights on Alert Media's YouTube page. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. Stay safe out there.
Thank you for listening to the Employee Safety Podcast from Alert Media, the industry's most intuitive emergency communication and threat intelligence solution. To learn more about how to protect your people and business during critical events, visit alertmedia.com. Until next time.